Welcome to Chapter 3, The Importance of Culture. What is culture? By definition, it is a set of beliefs, values, behaviors, customs, and attitudes that distinguish one group from another. So it's not just culture like music or culture Hungarian versus Colombian. If you look at the definition, it's a group that has certain values, behaviors. It can also be a professional group like accountants, or it could be salespeople, football fans. You see, they have certain beliefs, behaviors. They do certain things a certain way. That means they have a culture. And a culture can develop very easily when a group of people do the same thing in a certain way for long enough. So that's why you have many subcultures, professionally, ethnically. You have, neighbor parts of the same country. You can have generation that's also had its own culture. You have gender, male, female. You have the sexual orientation, LGBTQ or straight. All these subgroups have their own culture. So it's important to explore our own identity, cultural identity. Which groups are we in at the same time? And we are part of several cultural groups at the same time. You can be, in my case, I'm a millennial, Hungarian, I'm a male, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm also a trainer. And the fact that I've traveled, I love to travel, that's also like a certain group that thinks a certain way. So think about which one are you in? And part of the exercise at the end will be to explore this. And what would be interesting to know is also how you differ from maybe the average norm of your group. The reason this is important is because how your cultural background impacts the way you see the world, also impacts the way you make decisions. And this impacts also other aspects like what we find appealing. As I said in the previous chapter, like what we find appealing is culturally bound. So beauty standards, the products we buy, the kind of behavior we find appealing, the kind of what makes a good friend, an appealing partner, these are all cultural. And it's important to be aware of how it impacts others. And one way to do this, one way to get a sense is to look at cultural values, which are certain specific cultural traits that are a good way to get a first set of understanding about a culture. So one of them could be power distance, how time is perceived. So in some cultures, time is very flexible. In other cultures, it's very precise, and if you're late, it's just a sign of disrespect. So one of the bonus materials is all the cultural values that are being described to see which one they are and where, and you can play with this, get a sense of like where you are, and when somebody else is on the same spectrum somewhere else, this is where you have these differences where sometimes you have friction. Let's say my value is to be on time, and if I'm meeting you and you show up late and you don't realize that it's gonna bother me, and I don't realize that you don't see the world the same way, I might judge you incorrectly. I might think like you are disrespectful, while he came because he didn't want to be too early. Now, and a second way to understand cultures is cultural clusters. Some countries have more similar to each other than others. So to help you can group them in certain clusters like Latin American countries. There's some similarities versus them, let's say, North European countries, but also you have to be aware of how within each country, and there might be still big variations. So these all help to get a sense of generally how you need to engage with these people. But once you meet actual people, you have to replace your assumptions by what you see in front of you. Then you have cultural systems. These are important because so culture sets what's right and wrong. So the way they do things is also sometimes different. In some cases, for example, education is formal versus informal. Informal, that's like in the US, where you come in, you call a professor by his first name. It's a friendly, almost familiar interaction where if you have a question, you ask it. If you don't agree, you can speak up. While in formal situations, it's almost hierarchical. It's like the student always is very respectful, Mister this, Miss that, and often you don't ask questions. And if you don't agree, you don't challenge the teacher. That might get you in big trouble. And the other people might judge you poorly. So again, for these cultural systems as well, there's in the bonus material, I explain a little bit what they are, so you can refer to that when, let's say, you're about to meet with somebody from another culture, either their colleague or either they are in another country where you're going to work with remotely or you're trying to travel there. This can help you get a general sense of how they think and how they are, so that how you build rapport initially can be adjusted. So if you go to the Middle East, don't bring a bottle of wine to a dinner, because probably they might not be drinking. Just statistically speaking, they're probably Muslim, but not necessarily. So if you do your homework and you find out that this person is not Muslim, then sure. But if you don't have any other information, this can help you get a general sense of what's the safe approach. But then once you go there, you might find that the person you're meeting, they're Muslim, but they drink and they love wine. So in that case, then you replace your stereotype by what you know of this person. But then the next person, you have to start over. Meaning, don't assume that this one person is different than what you assume that the whole country will be like him. So this is where you have to balance between what's universal, cultural, and personal. So, as an exercise, for each cultural value, identify the group that you are in. So you can download the worksheet and make a list of, okay, you're male, female, that's one. Okay, what's on your passport? You can write that one. But then maybe there might be some other subcultural groups. And think of a situation where someone's behavior was different than what you expected, and it made you uncomfortable or upset you. And reflect on why this happened. And looking back at the cultural values, in the bonus material, try to place where you are in each of them and where that person was. And you might be able to identify where there was a gap and why did that make you uncomfortable. And when it comes to cultural clusters, think of an interaction with somebody from a cultural cluster and try to place that person on the different spectrum when it comes to the behaviors and values. So check it out. Let us know. Let me know how it goes. Come and post in the group. If you have any questions, we're here. And see you next time.